Hello and welcome to this edition of Scott and Pop Talk Baseball. So how was your week, Dad? Everything go all right, or?
Well, I mean, it's like kind of funny because when I worked, I used to talk about how my weeks were always the same because I always work. Now I'm retired, and my weeks are almost always the same. I mean, it's just, everybody has a routine, and that's what we do.
Right.
I spend so much time with the kids at church on Tuesdays, Wednesday nights, sometimes on Friday, Sunday morning. So, I mean, it's what I do.
Right. Yeah. So around here, everybody was excited because of the Carolina Duke game this weekend. I was not one of them, but did you watch the game? No, I didn't. I had something else to do.
No, I watched Virginia. I watched the Virginia Clemson game. Virginia again had a big lead in the first half, wound up winning by one. That's what they do. But I'm mostly yesterday I watched golf. A guy for I can't remember his name. He won the U.S. Open last year. He shot a 60 at Pebble Beach, the lowest round ever at Pebble Beach. I mean, he was training 25. He was training 25-foot putts like they were champions.
Well, that's what they're saying now in the golf world is, they can't make them big enough for these guys and their driver.
So there's a lot of people that's upset about he got a record because they've had so much rain in California. They canceled around today because they're having 50-mile-an-hour winds,
right,
and heavy rain, and the whole state's being inundated. And anyway, they were playing. It was so wet. They were playing clean, clean. You could clean your ball and clean in place. Because when they hit a drive, they didn't get the ball hit the fairway and sunk.
Right.
So they played clean in place, and they're complaining because he set the record playing clean in place. That's one of the rules, guys. I mean, that's just.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, get over.
Right. Well, that's people want to complain in the baseball world because they changed the rules and
everything's
more stolen bases. Yeah. So, right. Yeah, they want to hate no matter what. But now we're the baseball world. So a team that we both watch and like and have history with is the Baltimore Orioles, and they seem to make a move. Well, first, team got sold, and then second, they make a move to get Corbin Burnes.
Yeah,
I mean that was huge. I was impressed with that. They didn't really give up too much. I thought that was. I mean, they gave up D.L. Hall.
The guy they've got for their general manager. First of all, Peter Angelos is their owner.
Right.
He's 94. Remember last week we talked about the sale of the team for $1.7 billion or whatever, $1.4 billion, whatever. Well, I didn't know at the time because I didn't delve deep enough into it. So I did find this out. Angelos owns 70% of the team. 30% of the team is owned by minor owners. Mm-hmm. So the two billionaires that bought Angelos, they bought 70% of the team. I thought. They did not. They bought 40% of his 70% for that amount. When he dies, they will get the other 30% for another amount of money, which will go to his family.
Mm-hmm.
So they are still the majority owners. Now,
I also read that Ripken is in on that deal as well.
He is one of the minority owners. Cal Ripken is one of the minority owners, which is pretty appropriate. I mean,
right, Mr. Royal, right. Him and Brooks Robinson.
And see, well, Angelos, he didn't do a whole lot for that team. I mean, he was like the Washington owner for the.
It took him a while to step away and actually let the guys that you hire do their job.
Yeah, he had 3 seasons of over 100 losses.
Right.
While he owned the team.
While he was there, they set the record for most losses in a row to start a season.
And then a few years ago, when he got older and he stepped away from everything, they hired Mike Elias from the Houston Astros as their general manager.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that has built this team.
Right.
He's the one.
Well, he built like the Astros. He built it exactly the way the Astros.
He did it with the Astros. He and the general manager. He was the assistant general manager, or whatever.
Right.
And they built the Astros that way. He came to Baltimore doing the same thing. They hired a sharp young analytic dude to run their scouting department. I mean, they gave up for Corbin Burns. They gave up infielder Joey Ortiz and pitcher DL Hall. Both of them are real nice prospects, but they're not the top guys that everybody was after.
No, but DL Hall was at one time when we talked about him last week. I knew he was one of their top prospects at one time. At one time, he was their number 5.
He was their number 5 prospect, and he was drafted back in, I think, 17.
Ortiz
he was with the big team last year for a short period of time.
Right, but they could move him even though they're high on him, which they are, and a lot of teams are, because he has nowhere to play. He ain't going to take over any of the other guys' spots that are out there.
No, he hit 212 when he played for Baltimore last year, and he's a real sharp fielder.
Yeah, but they already got. I mean, he's not going to play. So
this Elias guy is only 41 years old.
Yeah. Well, the general managers are getting younger and younger, and are not necessarily grew up in the game as a player or.
No, they're analytics. It's all analytics. The other thing about this is that Dylan Cease is not off the table for them.
Right.
They've got plenty of other prospects. They just don't want to give up what the White Sox want for Dylan Cease. So I tell you
that Corbin Burns is a hell of a pickup. That's a veteran guy. The top, they could put him at the top of the rotation. I don't know who else would be number 1 over him.
And he set the floor for a trade. Anybody that's going to trade for Dylan Cease now says, well, look what Baltimore gave up. We're not going to give up what you want.
And so Corbin Burns is a better pitcher.
Take less.
Right.
Those are the two things. So, but Peter Angelos, that's when he passes away, then those two, I don't know, another $1 billion or something like that will go to the family for the rest of the 30%, which will give them 70% of the team. Then also, Justin Turner, he signed a 1-year deal with Toronto.
Yeah.
They'll be there, and people in Boston are very upset about that because just like in L.A., where he was one of the popular players, it was the same thing in Boston. He's just a popular guy.
Yeah, he's going to – I mean, he was like – for a bench player in New York, he was a popular guy with the Mets. That's who he came up with. And, the Mets kind of gave up on him, and he was going to retire, and the Dodgers talked him in. A friend of his with the Dodgers said, hey, come in the batting. They helped him with his hitting, and it's a turn the page stories. And, the second half of his
39. Career. He's got a 1-year deal, and he's 39 years old. So this might be it. Well, what I'm thinking is if he decides to retire, this will be his last year. And then next year he'll sign a 1-day contract with the Dodgers and retire as a Dodger.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great story of Justin Turner. If you ever get a chance to look at how his roadmap was to where he's at now, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
This guy everywhere he goes, he gets hit in the face in Boston, and just still has a very good year on a bad team. Toronto is. I thought it was a huge move for Toronto. That's a piece. They lost Chapman, but they pick up Turner. I think he might play some first base too. I don't know what's going to go on there with Vladdy, and you can't have but one guy DH. So that's going to be interesting. But that veteran guy that's already won a trophy with that young team.
But see, he can't DH every okay, because last year he started out like a house fire in Boston, and by the time September rolled around, he was done.
Right.
I mean, he think he ran out of gas.
Even though they had a winning team, they were so far behind. Sometimes you got to have a reason to go to the park. You know, we see that with some players sometimes, but I think that was a big pickup. You know, we're still waiting on the Montgomery,
Snell.
I
saw today.
Batman.
I saw today this morning where Bellinger might sign with Philadelphia. I don't know where they're going to put him. First base? No, he can't play for Harper Springs.
They'll put him in the outfield. But I don't know. You can't have but one DH. I mean,
well, you can put him in the outfield and DH Mr. June, April.
But he already DHs. I mean, you got Castellanos and you have Brandon Marsh out there. I mean, Abelli can play center, I guess, and Marsh, they can bench Marsh.
Yeah.
And then there'll definitely be a softball lineup. I mean, you don't have a true contact hitter anywhere other than Trey Turner. So, and poor Trey Turner gets on base behind Schwarber, and it's like a Corvette running behind a Mack truck.
Yeah, you can't pass him.
Yeah.
Well, Wednesday morning, it was official. The Yankees took their offer to Snell off the table. It was 5 years, $150 million. Boros is holding out for 9 years for $270 million.
Yeah.
So they took theirs off the table.
I did read too that Chicago was asking about pretty much all of them.
Right. That was I told you that last week.
I saw that. That's why I'm reiterating that. And I saw that again this week.
Yep.
So.
And the Angels asked for about Chapman and Snell.
I'm telling you, we want to dog the Angels here. We were so ready to. They quietly built a bullpen. If they can steal Snell and get another starting pitcher, yes, out in the West, they could make some noise. I mean, they can battle for a playoff spot.
The other team out West that the fans were upset about because they weren't making moves was Seattle. Now,
I'd be the Mariners.
Now, the Mariners, remember, they traded with the Giants and got DeScalfani, the pitcher. Well, they traded him.
Right.
They got Jorge Polanco from Minnesota, play second base, and they gave up DeScalfani, whom they got from San Francisco, a relief pitcher named Justin Tope, prospects Gabriel Gonzalez, an outfielder, and right-handed pitcher Darren Bowen. They went to Minnesota. So Seattle now has their second baseman.
Yeah, and he's got some pop, but I think he hasn't. He's like their Iron Man. I don't think he's missed a game in 2 years or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, something like that. And Washington has invited Dylan Cruz to their big camp. He was their first-round draft pick out of Louisiana State. Remember, Louisiana State won the championship last year, and Dylan Cruz was the second-round pick in last year's draft, and he did so well in the minors. They've invited him to camp. So,
which is not surprising. You draft a college player, if they're not up in a couple of years, that means there's something seriously wrong.
Right, and now, and Pittsburgh is bringing Paul Skeens, who was the number one draft, the pitcher for LSU. They're bringing him to camp. Corey Seager will be out most of, or if not all of spring training. He had sports hernia operation. So that's not good news for them. They hope to have him back by opening day. San Diego signed Wandy Peralta for 4 years, $16.5 million. to pitch for them. The Yankees are trying to get him.
Yeah.
Your boy Mike O. He sent a note saying that Rafael Palmeiro and A-Rod also had 3,000 hits, or not in the Hall of Fame. I said Pete Rose last week. I didn't even think about those two guys, but
yeah, we were thinking, with those two, which they'll never get in.
Yeah, they're the same thing. They didn't bet on games. They just juiced.
Right. And got in trouble and got caught. So
yeah. Now, here's another thing I found.
Palmeiro got caught up in the same ordeal that David Ortiz got caught up with, but Palmeiro sat right in front of Congress and said never did it.
Yeah.
But David Ortiz wasn't called in front of Congress, so we'll never know what he would have said, right? So, I kind of feel like that's kind of.
Well, he may have spoke Spanish and they wouldn't have been understood him. I mean,
yeah. I mean, he didn't know who Dustin Pedroia. He didn't know Dustin Pedroia's real name the whole time he played with him. So called him Tiny or something. He didn't know what his real name. When somebody said Dustin Pedroia, he didn't know who they were talking about.
Yeah, that's like Ricky Henderson. Yeah, Ricky Henderson never knew who he was playing. I mean,
Ricky. Well, that's Ricky being Ricky. That's the original Ricky being Ricky and Manny being Manny.
But he played with John Olerud in New York, and John Olerud has the steel plate in his head. Then Olerud goes to Seattle. Well, then a year later, Ricky goes to Seattle. And they're talking about the first baseman having a steel plate in his head. And Ricky said, "That's funny. I played with a guy just like him in New York." The same guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
No.
I mean, anyway, but I mean, it used to tickle me about Ricky because he used to come up with some stuff. I mean, I love to watch him play ball, but he wasn't the brightest candle on the cake. I can tell you that. Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein was with Boston. He built a lot of that Boston team that finally won a championship. He left there and went to the Cubs, did the same thing with the Cubs. The Cubs finally broke the 100-year jinx, and in 2016 won the World Series with the team that Epstein built. Now he has gone back to Boston in the ownership group. So he is now part owner of the Boston Red Sox. The Mets signed Shintaro Fujinami, a relief pitcher, for $850,000, and the Yankees.
He was with Baltimore last year,
and I thought he was pretty good. He throws the ball about 100 miles an hour. The Yankees, Will Warren was their 8th round pick back in 2021. Looks like he's going to be in the starting rotation. And we talked about all the problems with the television, the pay-per-view and all that stuff. Well, Bally Sports signed a 1-year TV deal with 12 teams. So now it looks like everybody's going to be, or just about everybody's guaranteed of having their games shown locally for this year, coming season. Now, it should be pointed out, there are a few teams. Now, I don't have to pay extra for Masson to see the Orioles and the Washington Nationals. But I understand that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and somebody else, they're going to have to pay extra for their to see their teams play. But locally, that looks like that's not going to be a problem for teams in the short haul anyway about funds, because they were complaining about they didn't have a guaranteed TV thing. It might cost them some money. They didn't want to spend a lot on players.
Right.
I can't blame any team for not wanting to spend, $270 million for Snell for 9 years.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's, to me.
I just, that with a pitcher, I can't do that. If I'm a general manager, I can extend myself to 5 years. But for pitching, I'm trying to stay closer to 4 years, because you don't know when a DeGrom or Scherzer, or you don't know when their last day is going to be. You just don't. And why extend yourself out like that? If a pitcher gets hurt bad enough, they're not going to come back. That's not like a fielder. unless a fielder gets a leg amputated, they're going to come back. I mean, it's got to be something very serious. Well, somebody gets hit in the head or something has a mental breakdown, which has happened in the past. But most of the time, you're going to be okay. But I just, for pitching, I just couldn't do it. I mean,
well, some of the teams,
I understand they want their money, they want their paycheck, sure, and they want to be protected against that last injury. But my gosh, I want to pay for what you're doing for me on the field, not sitting at home playing, MLB the show.
Like Washington is paying Strasburg.
Right. What did he play? He didn't even play a full season after that contract.
No, he only pitched about 2 innings. Then he got hurt. I mean, they gave him that contract for what he did, not for what he was going to do.
I mean, look at the Mets' Scherzer, and DeGrom. You don't know when these guys pitch every pitch the hardest they possibly can. That's the biggest difference between how many pitches pitchers pitch and all this stuff. These guys are told to throw as hard as you can, as hard, and be as perfect as you can for 5 to 6 innings, and we'll go get somebody else. We don't bring any fuel back in the dugout. Leave it all out there. So that is a huge difference. And you don't know when that last pitch is going to be. The arm is not supposed to go over the top like that. That's why women in softball can throw 48 innings in a row and have no problems.
Right, because that's a natural way to throw is under.
That's the natural. Over the top is terrible, and all that torque on your elbow and everything else.
Your shoulder.
Yeah. It's not supposed to work that way. And I couldn't do it. I'm glad I'm not a general manager and have to. I think that's an easy sell. If I'm a owner comes into why aren't we getting Snell? He wants 9 at this, and we don't know if he can last, 4 years of that at his age. So it's a hard sell. Good luck, Boris. That's why you get paid, get the money.
That's why he gets the big bucks, because he'll hold out, because he knows sooner or later somebody's going to get desperate and do what the Dodgers did for Ohtani.
Right, and the Yankees didn't extend themselves. And
that's probably who he was counting on.
Right, and I've said it for years. They might still spend a lot of money, but they don't spend like they used to, and they try to be a little bit smarter about it. If the Mets didn't have a few of their contracts that they're still spending, he might have could have tried them, but I think they've been burnt here the last few years, and he's still paying people that are playing on other teams.
Look at the California Angels. All of the money they spent on Pujols and what was the other guy's name they got from Texas, the outfielder? I mean, they had about Hamilton. Hamilton. They had all these contracts. They gave these guys all these years. They were going to buy a championship, and they could never get their head above water.
Well, none of them could pitch.
Right. They didn't have any pitching. Well, and see, when Pujols left the Cardinals, I saw the Cardinal manager was on ESPN after the baseball season was over, and Pujols after his first year with California, and they asked him what happened about the contract, and he said in St. Louis, the organization does not offer over 5 years. We prefer 3, but 5 is the limit. We told Albert, this is what we'll pay you for 5 years. Mm-hmm. He and his agent wanted 10. We would not go 10. Somebody went 10. They got it. We were not paying over 5. And monetarily, financially, not only did the Cardinals come out ahead financially in that deal, they also got Pujols for the last year of his career, and he hit better in the last year with the Cardinals than he did in all the other 9 years.
They used him right. They used him as a DH, and he didn't play every day.
Right.
So I mean, the Angels have work.
Well, the Angels is one of the Angels. They're one of these organizations in professional sports that they'd mess up a buzzard nest. I mean, they just if it can go wrong, it's going to go wrong. I mean, that's just the way it works. I mean, I've lived with that with the Washington football team since Dan Snyder bought it. You know, I mean, no matter what they did, it went wrong. I mean, because he was the owner and he was toxic. So no matter what happened, it was messed up because the organization was run, you know, it was a clown show.
Right.
And, you know, I'm not going to say what's going to happen now because I have no idea. I mean, to me, they got a bunch of basketball guys trying to run a football operation. So we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the baseball, about putting a team together, it's not, you just can't get the best 9 guys all the time. It's got to have some cohesion. It's got to, you play a long season. I mean, look what the Padres did last year. I mean, you put those 4 or 5 guys together, you're expecting big, huge things. And it didn't work for them, at least not for the first 2/3 of the season. You know, you got to have some good chemistry there. Sometimes that takes time to get together too. Even, you know, baseball, you don't need to know exactly where everybody's going to be. It's not like hockey or football where you got to know where your players are at all times. But baseball, it's just a lot of games back to back. You're in a dugout, you're traveling together, all that stuff. You need some cohesion, and you know, so just getting the best players just doesn't always work, and it gets proven all the time. And that's what everybody's freaking out about, the Dodgers. And I'm still like looking at that team, and I'm like, yeah, it looks good on paper, but wait, let's let the games play out. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you've got new players on that team. They have to learn how to play together. Right. The other thing I like to point out, that's one reason the Orioles were so successful last year.
Yep.
Because that young team,
they had a good time.
They had a great time playing for that manager and that coaching staff.
I hope it could
listen to the coaching staff and the manager and did what they were told. And they played as a unit. I mean, you could tell by the way they would look out for each other at the plate. I mean, if the guy was on second base, the guy at the plate wasn't thinking about his average or anything or hitting a home run. He was trying to move that guy over. He'd either try to punt him over or hit to the right side, do something to get that guy over.
Right.
And I mean, that's just the way the whole team played.
Right.
And I remember last year, Mullins, the center fielder, this poor guy had a terrible slump. I mean, it was awful. And the manager kept putting him out there on the field. And when he'd strike out again or hit fly ball out, ground ball out, whatever, he was so disgusted. He came back to the dugout. All those guys had their arms around him, you know, tell him you're coming out of it. You know, everything's going to be – I mean, it's just – I enjoyed watching it. It reminded me that's what the 2019 Nationals did. When they made those trades at the middle of the season, got those bullpen help, and the Baby Shark got in there, everything changed in that dugout. And they were a team, and they played like a team.
Yeah, that's the one thing I hate is I can't watch Baltimore here because it's in my every game is blacked out unless it's a national game. Yes, I don't get to see the Orioles very often, but I try to keep track of what they're doing. I'll watch the highlights the next day. That's about the best I can do. And the good thing is, like, if you're looking for highlights, just throw this out there for games. MLB on YouTube has a very good condensed highlight package of every game the next day. And I do that quite a bit. So that way I can keep up with what's going on. I can't watch all the games, Ed. But
sometimes I have to watch the highlights because I can't stay up late enough.
Right. Yeah. That's the other. If you can't see the games for whatever reason, and I don't have MLB.com either. I have Hulu, and Hulu does not have MLB.com, so that's how I get my MLB on YouTube. That's just.
Well, I watch a lot of MLB.
Yeah, no, I come up there to visit, and I'm very envious that you have MLB.
Yeah, now, I mean, this year, now during this part of the year where it's kind of a dead time and it's not a whole lot going on, they have Hot Stove, the show they have it on the morning, and they just re-loop that thing all day until 1 o'clock. Right.
So well, I mean, they also been doing like the top
10 of every
position. Yeah, they do that every year. Then they do the top 30 guys or whatever in the baseball. It's cool watching those type of things, but watching. I love Billy Ripken, and I like the guy. Starts with the D that coached the World Baseball team.
D-Row.
Yeah, I really the way they break down plays is just Billy Ripken needs to be coaching somewhere. Honestly, both of them should be. I think it's wasted there. They probably make a ton of money, but I wish they were out coaching somewhere.
Well, they have a lot of very knowledgeable people on there.
Oh yeah, I mean, when they get Pedro Martinez and all those on there talking, it's
the person that wrote the show. They've got 2 or 3 ex-GMs that add expertise to their,
Yeah, and actually on MLB Radio, the 2 of those guys have a show. And it's awesome. I don't listen. I gave up my my Sirius XM, but it's on Sirius XM, and their show is fantastic on MLB.com. But I just listen to podcasts now all the time while I'm driving around. Gotten old. I listen to news.
Yeah.
You got anything else for us, Dad, before we'll take off? It's just going to be a short one today.
No, I don't know. We had the last few weeks, we've had some information. I mean, none of the big stuff, but there was and I don't have everything because there was a lot of minor league signing to minor league stuff.
Right. And that's just filling roster spots.
Exactly. So I don't have anything else.
Right. So next week, Friday, we have 2 teams, Padres and Dodgers, starting Friday with pitchers and catchers. I think I've read that a lot of rookies and just drafted and invitees might be sprinkling in right now as well. So be looking for that. Your favorite team news will be coming up on the 14th through the 17th. The rest of the teams report,
and we take the show on Sunday, and next Sunday Super Bowl Sunday also.
Right. So we'll we're right around the corner from preseason or from spring training. We don't call it preseason in baseball, spring training. So let's get it going. Guys get signed to be more exciting. And until next time, like, share, tell a friend, and we'll see ya.